Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Citrus Corner. Today we're going to talk about some changes to the Walt Disney World reservation system, annual pass holders and cast members getting a higher discount, also talking about Tron and Moana at Walt Disney World. All that coming up on Citrus Corner. God, I love that intro. It's always good.
Get hyped.
Well, everyone, again, welcome back to Citrus Corner. And before we get into our, as Mr. VashSky puts it, our robust discussion today, I got to introduce these fellas, my comrades, my brothers. Always glad to have them on. I'm going to start down below with the man with many hats, many identities, Mr. VashSky, Dr. Dre, Producer Dre, all that good stuff. How are you today, sir?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm what is it? Catching up with these stories right here. I think this is really fascinating stuff that we're seeing across the Parks and Resorts division, at least domestically. I think this is going to be a good conversation. It should be a good time. Anyway, if you guys want to go ahead and follow me at home, you can go ahead and do so right down there at VashSky. Go ahead and type that in for, well, as Christine Wastelands McCarthy would say,
for all the robust
discussion. You can go ahead and do that right down there. And if you want to see me, well, it's going to be on channel you're watching right now at Orange Grove 55 at Freshly Squeezed, your source for juicy news and info squeezed fresh right from the Grove.
Pay attention, it's Joe time.
Awesome. Right. And of course, the person sitting to my right, my left, your right, folks. Sorry about that. That actually needs no introduction, but we're going to introduce him anyway. OG, the original OG. the OG. Orange Grove 55. How you doing today, brother?
I'm doing fantastic. Brother. Thank you so much for having me on Citrus Corner. We're talking some Walt Disney World. We're going to talk Moana, some merchandise situation going on, which is pretty interesting. A lot to discuss. Looking forward to it, sir.
Awesome. And if you want to find Orange Grove, you could find them on here, Orange Grove 55. If you don't know where to find them, then folks, you got to do something. You're a little bit lost.
You're lost. You're lost.
That's it.
You're stuck in Neverland.
Yep.
So the first topic, I think we'll get into it. We'll start with a nice meaty one, and it's about the changes to the reservation system at Walt Disney World. And I thought this was kind of interesting. And if you guys could bring up the list.
I got it up right here right now.
Alrighty.
There it is.
So these are the things that are going to be changed and or added to the Walt Disney World reservation system. Starting with number 1, guests will be able, to make
Whoops.
park pass.
It's not ours.
Yes, it is not ours. Yes, to make park passes together, regardless of the ticket type.
Yeah.
Park passes will be able to be modified instead of to be having to be canceled or rebooked. That's actually really good.
Yeah.
If guests have multiple tickets, they would be able to choose which ticket they want to use for the park reservation. And this one I find kind of interesting. You will be able to select park passes for up to 30 people instead of the original 12. Well, folks, I mean, if you're taking 30 people to Walt Disney World and you have to be the one to manage all of it, God bless you. So,
well, this is that's interesting. I know we make fun, and yes, 30 people, it's ridiculous. But from what I understand, this was really a problem with corporate events, with school groups and stuff like that. This was quite an issue for a while. So the ability to make reservations or be able to manage up to 30 is going to be a huge help to those folks. It's a very kind of interesting problem that they've been having.
And that also sets the stage for international visitors
yes.
coming. because a lot of the international visitors, if they're coming, as you had mentioned, Dre, by the schools or by
Tour groups.
Yeah. So that'll definitely benefit them.
Now, the first one, it says guests will be able to make park passes together, regardless of ticket type.
So this
were you guys unable? Were you guys unable to do that? Because I know when I made reservations for like my birthday back in May, like some of us had annual passes or Magic A's, and some of us had regular tickets, and I was able to click the boxes for all of them and make those reservations. At Florida at Walt Disney World, you were not able to do that before?
For Walt Disney World, you have it actually like 3 different categories. You would either have just a basic day ticket, an annual pass, or if you're staying at a resort hotel. So depending on which type of ticket you have, you would have your own separate reservation system. So now they're just adding that all into one bundle, that no matter what kind of ticket type you have, you can just book your reservation.
I guess that may have been the sticking point right there, because I think they wanted to separate guests who are staying on property out from guests who maybe, are staying off site, or maybe annual pass holders. Maybe that was the hang up there, because like OG said, Disneyland, we've been able to mix ticket types for a while now. I remember linking your guys' pass onto the account for our day when we were there, and you could do pretty much, you could make all that management those management choices regardless of ticket type for our day at the parks. I guess this system and how it operated at Disneyland, it didn't exist at Walt Disney World, and from what I understand, it was very frustrating, because a lot of people, as you probably know, they come in, they see their family in to Florida. Maybe those Floridians have APs themselves, and they go to get their their guests, their family members, their friends into the parks, just not like get them in, but just manage their tickets for the day. That way they can enjoy the day together, and it was far more complicated than it needed to be.
Well, this
overcomes those issues.
Well, that makes me wonder, does that then beg the question that if there was any reservations that were kind of left, like remaining, so that way it's not leaving people out in the dust, that if there was like an X amount for annual pass holders and they weren't being used for the day, that they could use those reservations for people who actually have day passes. Like the reservation itself. See, because they had to separate them through category, it would block off to say, oh, well, we got to leave these reservations open for annual pass holders, but then it would leave the ticket holders high and dry.
I think they wanted to separate the buckets in order to give a differing or a variance of the level of access between the ticket types, right? You do bring up an interesting point where, let's say you're an annual pass holder and maybe you can get in, or maybe a daycast couldn't, or even vice versa. It could be really complex. So to be able to make those reservations at the same time, you don't necessarily overcome the previous issues, but you make it a lot more manageable, a lot more easier. To just say, hey, this is available for all of us, select that and go from there. I think that was the kind of the hang up. As far as reservations and what is it? The kind of like from what I understand, how the reservations work at Walt Disney World and Disneyland, they're like separate buckets. I don't think there's interplay unless you get close enough to that date and Disney slides that ratio over to annual pass holders. So it's
maybe they were just tired of just having to rework the system every time if they were to have extra reservations left over.
I mean,
because if you put them all into one bucket, then it just goes by not like a lottery system, sort of speak, but where they only have X amount of people who are annual pass holders for this particular day at this particular park. And then if it fills up, then it caps off.
Yeah. I don't know if necessarily when you make a reservation, they slide into all one bucket. I think they're still portioned out. It just looks like one group now that can make a reservation for that park that day. And if anybody can't, because their ticket type is in a different bucket, it'll tell you. I think that's how it works. I think that's what they're doing. We'll see, though. I mean, from what I understand, what I've been hearing a lot lately is January 1st, even this system's going to change. So don't worry, folks. If it's not complicated enough for you right now, it's going to get a whole lot more complicated January 1st. Well, maybe less, depending on what they do, but that's a whole nother story.
Yeah, because like at Disneyland Resort, I never have issues making reservations. Like it's very easy. My issue with the reservation system isn't so much making the reservation. It's waking up that morning and like, oh man, I got a headache. I don't want to go to the park. And now I can't cancel because I had to cancel before midnight. That's my biggest issue with the reservation system. The making the reservations for me, and I'm a Disneylander. I'm not a Floridian. Their system is totally different, apparently. But like, I don't have really any issues making these reservations. Like it's a pretty simple process. It seems a little more complicated in Florida, which is interesting.
It is.
With Walt Disney, I was just going to say with Walt Disney World, the issue with the reservation system doesn't necessarily mean for all 4 parks. You could pretty much get a reservation for Animal Kingdom and Epcot. Magic and Hollywood, especially Hollywood, is like next to nil. You have to know the date when you want to go, and you have to be ready right to that hour
and this
to
was
book a reservation.
In the Wall Street Journal article that was just posted featuring Josh Unfavorable Diamaro, he talked about how this was a kind of a virtual load balancing system, right? Let's not, because Hollywood Studios has all the great, new rides and attractions in the form of what you can find at Toy Story Land, Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. It's like, well, that park would be overrun if we didn't have a system like this in place. This load balances between all the parks. If you're... instead of giving unfettered access to what parks that people might go to naturally. So it's a very kind of interesting way of doing this. I think Len Testa was reporting that the other change implemented with these changes was that I thought the park hop time for Walt Disney World was at 2:00 over there.
It is 2.
Okay, yeah, ours is 1, so that's where a little bit different.
But by the time you actually get to the other park, it'll be about 5:30. So.
Yeah, exactly.
That's true, right?
Now, previously, you had to, no matter what that time was that you actually arrived for your starting park, you had to go there first before you could park up, no matter the time. So it would be after 2, whatever. From what I understand, that's no longer the case. That you can, no matter what park you may have selected at first, as long as you did select a park after 2, you can just go straight to that park. I think that's how it works. Did you see that, George? Or am I getting that wrong?
Believe so. I think that's how it goes. Because that's one of the main issues with Walt Disney World. Because even though I joke about it, it's really true because of the amount of distance there is between the parks, and with the transportation system being unreliable of when the buses are going to get there, how long the wait's going to be. It's by the time you actually get there, half your day is spent traveling.
Yeah, and that is quite the issue. It diminishes the value of the park hopper substantially because it's like, how long are you really necessarily going to be able to spend in any park you hop into from the park you left, based on the how long it will take you to get over there, and the park's closed so early it might not even be worth it. Well,
and that's a conversation that we've had here many times, in that there is a blessing of size, but with that blessing comes a lot of caveats, a lot of curses, basically, because like there's a lot of blessings where, we have land for days, we can do whatever we want. But the curse is, well, if you're park hopping, you're taking a 15-20 minute monorail, whatever it is, to the next park. And it's a lot harder. So there are pros and cons to this being so big.
Yeah, definitely. And with the Skyliner, it's very good because it's adjacent to some of the hotels, to either Hollywood Studios and Epcot. But when it comes time for the park, if you're not park hopping from Epcot to Hollywood Studios or vice versa, then you're pretty much SOL. It's like, if you're going to Animal Kingdom or Magic from one of those, you're going to have to either travel back to your hotel or go to the Transportation and Ticket Center or Disney Springs and then catch one of their buses to the other park.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely a far more complex system out there in Walt Disney World, as we have not only shown but painfully illustrated with various examples. And from what I understand, that the having to go to the starting park, no matter what the time was, and then going over to the other park was also another hassle that I think they're slowly they're slowly making easier, right, from those very constrained days of mid 2020, right? I think they are kind of opening it up, and I think these systems will be easier to navigate, and it looks like they are making those easier to navigate. It's just one step at a time, based on any number of metrics that TDO or Josh Giamaro or anybody else uses.
Well, and that's the thing too, and a lot of fans are quick to say when they're doing something wrong, but I think it's important to also acknowledge when Disney sees something and they improve upon it. And this is one of those things. Everything on that list is a good thing, right? And even besides like this, we saw Disney kind of change course with like the fireworks, Enchantment. Right? They heard the outcry. We wanted more nostalgia, the fans said. We wanted more Walt. We wanted more Roy. We wanted more history from the park. And Disney heard you, and they delivered on that. And it's easy to be cynical and be like, they cucked out, or they this, that, and the other. But like, let's be real. Like they heard the complaints and they delivered on it. And I think that's something there's something to be said about that. I think that right now this current administration is very much about the consumer in the regard of like listening and like Chapek has said it. We're going to meet consumers where they are, right? Mm-hmm. So if the bulk of consumers want X, Y, and Z, they're going to deliver X, Y, and Z. I think that is a good thing, and we're seeing that they are changing things, whether it be reservation system, whether it be the content and fireworks shows. They're changing things based on consumer feedback, and that is a good thing, in my opinion.
Yeah. I'll admit it's a very, very good thing. I wish they were a little bit faster at reacting to some of this stuff. 10 months after the celebration takes off, now you finally include Walt and Roy. Come on, guys. Let's be ahead of the curve, not always constantly very behind it. But I will agree with you, OG. Good stuff.
And I do think that not our necessarily like this channel, but like just the community's sort of outrage over like the lack of Walt. His speech at Disneyland, I think definitely played also into the Florida thing, because that was just like one more piece of the puzzle, right? Because like there was a lot of outrage already that Florida wasn't getting the nostalgia, wasn't getting the Walt and the Roy, and then they completely eliminate Walt's speech from Disneyland. There was a lot of fan outcry over that. I think it was just a lot of things, and they heard us, and that's good. But you're right, Dre. They need to react a little sooner than that. They need to be a little more lean, a little more nimble.
Yeah, exactly. No, I agree.
And before we move on, I just have one other notion to make with the reservation system, which I appreciate Disney doing so, is that you don't have to fully cancel one reservation before having to switch it out for another. Yeah. That would drive me absolutely nuts, because since I plan with Walt Disney World, where there's a lot of dining options, and depending on the time and the day that you have to book a reservation, you may have to change what park you're at what day. So you'd have to go into your account, cancel that, go back in. So I love how you could just modify that feature without having to do two things at once.
Now, I think 100%. Annual pass holders are they're still going to have to deal with the canceling first and setting a day again. But I believe ticket holders and especially guests staying at hotels, you're not going to have to. You're just going to be able to modify freely, which is, again, like you said, nice feature.
Absolutely. All right, so moving on to our next topic, we are going to talk merchandise. And this is actually quite interesting, because the topic of merchandise we're going to talk about is there's actually a significant increase of a percentage off that you can have off if you're an annual pass holder or if you're a cast member. Cast members, I believe, for the whole month of August gets 50% off. And starting September 14th through October 14th, annual pass holders will get 30% off from the 20%. Now, did it say in any of the articles that is it specific merchandise, or is it just whatever is included with the discount? You get that percentage
the
off.
discount is available on most merchandise at owned and operated locations across Walt Disney World. So they always kind of do this where, if they have like an outside proprietor actually, selling, wares within the theme parks, let's say, sometimes they accept the discount, sometimes they don't. It's up to their discretion. But this seems to be indicating a policy consistent with that. If it's owned and operated by the Walt Disney Company, it looks like you're going to be able to to get your discount right here, which is, it's considerable. 20% from to 30%. That's a lot, but the 50% off for cast members and so forth, that's a lot too. We're seeing some very interesting discounting going on at a very particular time. From what I have heard, Walt Disney World, at least, I've not seen this quite at Disneyland, but I guess Walt Disney World does this regularly at this time, which I've never seen before. Maybe I missed it. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I haven't been following Walt Disney World closely.
Honestly, I probably missed that train because I usually look out for those specials and those deals, and I've been down there in August and September and actually October, and I've never recalled having that high of increase, but I could be wrong. You folks that are watching, comment down below. If I'm wrong, let me know, but I don't ever remember that steep of an increase.
Yeah, 50% off for cast members, and from what I understand, I believe, shout out to our, Five Fires, right? Rudio and the crew over there, Mondo. Right?
Mondo.
Fantastic, guys. But I believe they were saying that 50% off discount extended not just to Walt Disney World cast members, but also to Disneyland cast members. Hopefully I'm not wrong on that one either. But it's very interesting because I like I said, I don't remember hearing any of this stuff before. Now we are seeing some weird stuff regarding merchandise. OG, you had an incident recently where you went to, Oswald's on Buena Vista Street, and what did you find there, just to give our viewers some context?
I found a really great mug, and when I looked inside the mug, it was actually from Tokyo Resort, and it was an Oswald mug. It was fantastic, and I know Oswald is huge in Tokyo, Japan. I know they love Oswald, but I thought that was interesting. I thought that was very, very interesting. And look, Disney's been kind of moving merch around for a few years now. I mean, they've even kind of been doing this with, there's a reason why your bag, when you shop at like Disneyland, right? It doesn't say Disneyland on it anymore. And it hasn't for a long time. It says Disney Parks. And the reason why they do this is because they can use that bag anywhere then. So if they put Disneyland across it, well, then you can't ship these bags to Florida, or and vice versa, right? So I think that's kind of like this kind of, I think it kind of started with that one Disney initiative, like, I don't even know, like over a decade ago. I think you guys probably remember that, where they were trying to unify the parks a little bit. That's why they got rid of like the very specific resort, like kind of logo on the napkins and stuff like that, so they can move this stuff back and forth.
Yeah.
So this has been kind of an initiative for a while. I did find it interesting though that we did get the Oswald mug from Tokyo. I'm not complaining. I love Oswald, and Tokyo has better stuff. So bring it all, baby. I don't even care. But it has been a thing they've been doing for a while, and it's interesting. It's very, very interesting.
So it's more so the fact that the whole purpose of why this is even occurring could be just a lot of backstock and what have you, and then even beyond, even to the international parks, that they're just trying to get a lot of inventory out and try to sell this as much as possible.
That's kind of what I'm thinking. If you share my screen, OG, you'll see that real fast. You're seeing right now on screen generic merchandise being sold at the location. No, it's no, what is it? It's not very surprising, right? There's a lot of these kind of stores, Esplanade and so forth, that have generic merchandise being sold at stores. But these stores were particularly interesting because this is Ramones and Cars Land. Now, if you remember the design conceit of Cars Land, everything that is sold in Cars Land must be representative of the Cars kind of franchise, right? So the fact that you're selling generic merchandise in these stores is completely it's bizarre. I mean, it'd be like selling a Mickey T-shirt over in Galaxy's Edge. You just wouldn't see it. So they're doing some interesting things with merchandise. I don't know if there's, if they don't necessarily have enough Cars merchandise in to fill these shelves, or whether or not they're pushing this merch specifically just to get out of their inventory, right, to make room for additional stock, like you said, George. Or
maybe
I'm not sure
even
what's going on here.
Or maybe even the Cars merchandise really isn't moving. Maybe they're trying to find a different strategy of getting the stuff that maybe guests are more interested in.
Yes.
Because what's funny is because sometimes you can incorporate Mickey or the Fab Five into whatever land the merchandise is in. Like if you were to have like Mickey and Goofy and Donald maybe in a race car, so it still has that overall theme of Cars Land, but this is just basic vintage Mickey Mouse. It has no connection whatsoever to the land.
This has actually been something that's been going on for a very long time, and not just with Cars Land, but for all the lands. I remember my mom; she was telling me when she was a kid, when you went into Frontierland and you go into the shops in Frontierland, you can buy like Pendleton boots, cowboy boots, and cowboy hats, and all this stuff, right? And now you go into the shops in Frontierland, and you see a bunch of stuff like this. I think this is kind of like the MO. I think a lot of these lands, they open up very specific merch, and as time goes on, they sort of put in the more generic Disney stuff. Now, here's the other thing: this kind of trend that kind of started with the Wizarding World of these these IP, like one IP kind of lands,
the hyper immersive lands.
Right. The hyper-immersive, one IP, very focused lands, it kind of lends itself to a problem later on, because an IP might be hot in 2010, but in 2020, maybe not as hot anymore. So now what do you do? Because now you have a whole land based on one IP, and now you got to sell merch. So what do you do? Yeah. Now, Cars is a great example, because Cars, what have they done lately? Not much. I mean, there hasn't been a Cars movie in a while. So it kind of makes sense now, like, well, we don't really have a new movie. We don't really have anything going on. We gotta move merch. So you have the space, you got to put something else in there. Now, maybe that will change when I believe Disney Plus is getting some Cars
on the road.
Yes, like a TV show. I'm sure the Cars merch will move back in when that comes out. But right now, if there's nothing Cars to really move, no pun intended, what are you going to do? And that's the problem with these IP-driven lands. And I think we'll see it with Galaxy's Edge too. I think eventually they will move in. I don't know about Mickey merch, but they'll move in. They're going to get away from the timeline. They'll just move in some generic Star Wars stuff almost inevitably. They have to. They've done it with Frontierland and all these other lands. They'll do it.
Well, I guess it's the first time that we've seen any of these hyper-immersive lands get this kind of generic merchandise, what is it, sold within them. It's kind of a surprising thing, because you think that these things are going to be evergreen, but you're right, OG. I mean, sometimes maybe demand lops off kind of thing, and you have to sell some different wares, right, in order to keep the shocks, in order to keep the the merch flowing, I guess, that kind of thing. And it's really kind of an interesting thing, because I don't know, the timing is weird. By the way, the credit to Mice Chat for these pictures showing this, because I don't think anybody else is necessarily covering this. It's weird how we're getting big discounts for annual pass holders, for cast members, then we're getting this at kind of all the same time. Also, along with your story about getting Tokyo merchandise at Oswald's on Buena Vista Street, do you think this might be impacted by not having a kind of retail outlet, like a traditional retail outlet in the form of like the Disney stores, that might be impacting this? Because I remember going to like the Disney store outlet, you used to have shirts, T-shirts, and merch from all over the world that maybe didn't sell in their respective, countries or respective resorts or whatever, and they were sold there. Big discount, you walk away with it. We move on. They move through inventory and product. Do you think that might be impacting it as well?
Absolutely.
Do you think it might be like, maybe they ordered these things and supply chain issues are so, they are what they are, and that they get stuff late and now they have to make room for that because they're getting it all at once? What do you think that might be it?
That is a very high possibility. Another one that I was actually thinking, because I work in retail and this has happened with our company. I don't know if this happens with Disney or others, but we had delaying issues with a lot of the product that were months and months backed up because of the delivery issues with the trucks and everything. And we would just get a lot of product all at once. And this was product that was ordered 5 or 6 months back, and we're just getting that now. So, now we're trying to figure out where to put it because now we have the product that's coming in that is current. So we have the current product plus the delayed product. So it's almost like, you have to rob Peter to pay Paul.
Well, you got to move this stuff.
You got to move it. And here's the other thing too, which I think is an interesting kind of thing to bring up, is that we just heard Chapek refer to Magic key holders as unfavorable because they just don't spend money. So maybe this kind of like these AP discounts are kind of an aggressive move by Disney to kind of incentivize these locals to actually buy something, right? Like, hey, we'll give you a discount, buy it, kind of thing. Because like if they're not buying it with the current discount, maybe we got to make it a little more, and see if that works or not. That could be a factor here too, because obviously Disney is not happy with how much locals spend. They're trying to incentivize. And from what I understand, didn't they give, aren't they giving a discount for Genie Plus as well for Magic Keys or something now? I thought that was something that came out recently. Maybe not.
Yeah, there is. Yeah. For Magic
Right?
Keys, there is a discount for Genie Plus.
Right. So that kind of ties into that too. They're incentivizing these locals to spend money. Stop bringing your own sandwiches to the park. Actually buy Genie Plus. Actually spend money. We'll give you a discount. Just buy something, And that's basically what I think might be going on here as well. It's an incentivization program basically to kind of boost this up because the numbers are not good.
I guess the Wall Street Journal article that was recently published suggested that 50% of Disneyland's daily attendance was annual pass holders.
Right.
So it's a very interesting statistic, and maybe those ratios will change if demand from local or domestic or international tourism abates. Right. Maybe they have to lean in more into annual pass holders than they have previously if economic factors or any number of issues come into play where you don't necessarily have that demand from that kind of a higher spending consumer base. So how do you get annual pass holders who previously hadn't spent that much money to spend more? I think that might be part of this as well. It's going to be very interesting to see.
And that's interesting. I didn't catch that part because that article was a beast. I mean, it was a beast. That thing was so long. 50. That's pretty low. I mean, I got to be real with you. Like 50% of the Disneyland Resort is annual pass holders. 50%. Like I was thinking that like tourism was like maybe 20 or 30, and like the AP population was more like 70. Only it's 50-50.
So
that surprises me.
The
as well.
statistic that I had always heard back in the day was that 75% of the annual attendance of Disneyland come from within 250 miles or less. But 250 miles doesn't necessarily suggest that you have to be an annual pass holder, does it?
Oh, that's true.
And annual attendance is a little bit different than the daily average. So that's the other kind of thing playing into that. And I believe the source for that was Let me see if I can try to find it here. I believe it was USC Bank had that number or had that estimate. Disney doesn't reveal annual pass, attendance and it breakdowns and stuff like that. So they don't really get into that, which is unfortunate. But that's where I believe that's where the source for that came from. And like you said, I thought it was very kind of interesting because I thought that was a little bit lower too.
Yeah,
that also
time.
might be the change in demographic at this high demand time. That might be a reflection of that. Hey, maybe that's the going to be the consistent ratio going forward. Maybe it's not, but I believe that's what it is right now currently. Which, like you said, I mean, there has been a shift away from annual pass holders and towards this, and it looks like they may have achieved that at least somewhat out here at the Disneyland Resort. And it's like, do you necessarily need to sell Magic Keys if you're getting at least 50%? I mean, that's kind of the deal there. I know a lot of people are not thrilled about that, and there have been some incidents where people might not be able to renew, and that's a kind of it's a huge bummer, and there's a lot in the works. There's a lot moving,
and that affects people's vacations, because if someone is going to have a back-to-back vacation, where if you know the mentality that you're an annual pass holder or you're a key holder and you have 3 or 4 vacations lined up, and by osmosis that something just happens and you lose or you give up your annual pass or your Magic Key, that's going to put the mindset to say, oh, well, I can't do these 3, 4, 5 vacations. I got to cut this back to maybe 1 or 2, because having that annual pass, if you're going that frequent within a year, that's going to make you want to utilize that. And if you don't have it, you're not going to do it.
Now, I do want to let you...
The investment bank UBS had that number about the annual pass holders. I do apologize. Just found it.
That's fascinating. That's 50% for the year, you said? That was an annual number?
Estimated early last year that annual pass holders at Disneyland account for about 1/2 of visits. But on the other, annual pass holders tend to spend less than other visitors per visit. So, yeah, that's for the day. That's your daily attendance made up by 50% annual pass holders, which, by the way, I mean, that's a recent statistic right there. That doesn't necessarily mean that will be the trend going forward. Now, I mean, obviously, Disney wants to trend in that direction for as long as they can, right? And, manipulate their systems in order to maintain that 50% or even more demographic share for local and international tourists. But we'll see how that plays out here as we get into harsher economic times.
Yeah, and I would even argue that the heavy local, and I've said this for a long time, but I think that the heavy local population at Disneyland Resort is manipulated. It's not organic at all. When you offer discounts for Californians constantly, monthly payments for Californians, and you're incentivizing Californians over and over and over again, and then you turn around and go, well, the park must be a locals park. Everyone here is a Californian.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I wonder why, Why don't you go ahead and give Arizonans or Pennsylvanians or other people discounts and monthly payments and see what that dynamic is going to be? I think it would be a little different. But guys, I love you, brothers. I have to take off. You guys continue the party, talking Walt Disney World. George, you are a fantastic host, brother. Thank you so much for having me on Citrus Corner. Dre, I love you. You guys are fantastic. I will see you guys next time.
OG, I do appreciate it. So let's go ahead and give him off right there. Right
there we
for
go.
The OG, of course.
Awesome.
For that hot take. Now, I wanted to ask you, George, real quick. There's a kind of a, I don't know, there's some speculation going around. I believe it was Haston on Twitter, who was kind of the Disneyland frequenter, and who's a great follow on Twitter. Definitely follow Haston for sure. But he was suggesting that they might open up, or he was speculating, I suppose, that they might open up new Magic Key sales after like October 1st.
I did hear that. I did hear that. Yeah.
And
that's interesting. No. I was just going to say that's interesting, because I think that's a particular time when you're going to start having people coming in. I mean, even though that technically the Halloween parties and what have you are still going on, but in October, that's when they really start booming. And then you're going to move into the Christmas holiday season, and you have like all those festivities going on. So I think that's kind of interesting.
If you want to maximize the amount of annual pass holders on the system, I can see selling them at that time, especially as it relates to the quarter. You know, Disney loves those quarterly earnings reports, right? And having those big numbers at the end of them. So I can kind of understand, because that's the start of the fiscal year for Disney. Kind of understand like why they might want to, if they were going in that direction. From what we have heard, they want to rein in the annual pass holder population unless they want to limit the access on the back end of those sales. That's the only way you can really sell more annual passes while containing how many of them actually go into the park is adjusting those ratios, those reservation ratios per day,
right.
And sliding it towards ticket holders, right? And only letting so few annual pass holders in. If you're going to sell a bunch of APs, that's the only way you can do it.
Yeah.
And that, if that is the case, I mean, that's what they're going to do.
They picked the perfect time to do so.
Right,
So
exactly.
It does make sense.
I'm just saying, a lot of people who were maybe not thrilled about what happened last year around this time, where, you got into maybe deep October, and you couldn't make a reservation for until the next year. If people were not thrilled about that situation or scenario, that might be happening again here. So,
definitely
just understand, folks. If they open up sales, it's going to make it harder for you to get a reservation yourself. Go ahead.
And we'll definitely keep an eye on that. And just remember, folks, if that's true, you heard it here. You heard it from on Twitter. That it's a possibility. And it's a very high possibility.
It is. George, I believe that about wraps that one up. Very, very interesting. But I think there's other things on the list that we should get to.
There is. Let's start off with my my wife's favorite Disney movie, and she will fight anyone on it who disagrees.
Tron?
Yeah. No, we're gonna start over at Epcot first before we head over, and we'll finish off at the Magic Kingdom. So
gotcha.
It's gonna be Moana, the journey. I don't even know the full title of this thing. What is it? Journey into water?
A journey of water.
Journey of water.
Journey of water.
Journey of water. It's like between that and the title of Avatar, it's all about the water. So it's like.
Yeah, it's gonna be. They're gonna have the Animal Kingdom version, the Avatar Journey of Water. It's like, wait a minute, what?
Now, I was very skeptic about this project, especially because it was going into Epcot, which, and I was talking to some people on Twitter about it, and I do understand, with the Living Seas, with Nemo and Friends and what have you, it falls into that category, but the structure of what they wanted to do with this I found it fascinating because the look of it alone kind of made me feel more towards Animal Kingdom, to be honest with you. I didn't really see it in Epcot, but I'm curious to see of how all this will come together once Epcot is fully finished with its remodel. But I have to say, I'm actually impressed with what the overall structure is starting to look like. It's very detailed. I think it's done very well. I'm curious to see what they're going to end up doing with how they're going to handle the water in a very technological way. What's your take on it?
Well, I think it's very kind of interesting. When I heard about the project, initially I was like, wouldn't have quite expected that. Yeah.
Oh, and by the way, I actually found this out when I was actually in the Anaheim Convention Center waiting to enter the 2019 D23 Expo, because they had the media up there, and they got to pull the curtain, and this was one of the models, and then it just blew up on Twitter, and it was like,
right.
And I thought that was very interesting that Moana's coming to Epcot.
Yes, I thought that was I thought it was very, very interesting. Look, I'll say this. There's been some speculation. I believe Mickey Views or maybe Tom Corliss on Walt Disney World News Today. I can't remember which one, but I guess there's been some speculation that this project was always in the works for Epcot, but it wasn't necessarily IP themed. That they wanted to bring in a little bit more natural elements into Epcot to break up the very kind of outdated future world aesthetic that Epcot had been kind of living through since 1982, right? That it's like, if we install more trees, right, and if we install stuff like this, it'll kind of break that up a little bit and kind of provide some what is it?
Like like a more organic,
more organic type feel to the area, right? But I don't think they had an IP attached to it at that point. And then when it became, well, we got to make it Epcot more family, more Disney, and that means Disney IP, right, folks? It was like, okay, we have an IP now. We have Moana. We can kind of integrate some Moana elements into it. I think that's and hearing that, it's like, I think that sounds about right. That sounds about what I think that what they had, the story that had kind of played out. But I will say, I mean, look, the details are quite nice. It's a very kind of different aesthetic for Epcot. I mean, the closest thing that we got to this, ever within Epcot, at least in Future World, was maybe like the Living Seas Pavilion, right? Just a little bit of aesthetic out there, but now we're getting this. What surprises me is how intimate it feels. I mean, you can see between these two cast members, there's not a lot of room between the rock formations here, which is weird for Epcot, right? Epcot, I always think grand scale. These things are larger than life, bigger than life, but no, this is a very kind of intimate experience. And it's a very much of a change of pace, especially for the Future World, or the previously Future World was a portion of Epcot, right?
Because this section.
What do you think of that?
Because this section is going to be World Nature. This is where this is going to take place. I mean, being that it's going to be called World Nature, I could definitely see where they're going with it. I am very curious because, as I said, just within the process form, it looks very interesting. It does. I do agree with you. It does look more smaller than what I was anticipating, especially for Epcot. Do you have a picture of it where it's like of the concept art itself? Like, I know you have a photo of the model. Do you have like where it's like matched with the rest of the?
We can look it up.
Because I want to see like how of a scale of how much land this is actually going to take up.
Yeah, sure. Oh, like an overview.
Overview, yeah.
Yeah, that one might be tricky to find. But I can go ahead and try to find it. Well, this is where it was in the old concept art here. Let's see here. Let's see if this works between browsers, folks. This was the old concept art, and this is how much real estate it took previously. Not huge, and from what I understand, it's not going to be much. The scale of it is not necessarily been changed. The surroundings have. I believe they're going to have the what is it? Interventions. What would that be? It'd be East?
East. That would be East.
Yeah, so they're going to have Interventions East 2.0, is that right?
That's basically, yeah.
Okay, so it won't necessarily have the wide open vistas that you see just south of this property here. I mean, yeah, I guess, yeah. I mean, if it was always going to be, take up that small area within the within this overall expanse here, I guess it would be that kind of small. I don't know. I just was kind of thinking it was going to be a little bit taller, a little more spread out. But
now,
this is a very kind of intimate experience.
Now, all that greenery beside it, that's like right in between where the monorail and Spaceship Earth is that part of the land, or is that just going to be just the extra trees that they're just going to plant to have that more of that organic feel that we were talking about?
I believe that is where they want to go with this. Like I do think they want to integrate a lot more greenery in their design aesthetic when it comes to the Moana Journey of Water. So I do think that will be integrated amongst these kind of big rockwork structures, and really integrated throughout what was Future World. Because like I said, I mean, when you part of the thing that really dates these buildings and structures is that you don't necessarily have impeded sight lines, or you don't have any natural tree growth and so forth in various areas to kind of like take your attention away from those architectural structures. It's just like, here's Interventions West, here's Guardians of the Galaxy, here's, and it's like, those aesthetics, Yeah.
And when they made that announcement that's the route that they were going to do, because this isn't just like one humongous land that it used to be Future World. They're breaking it off into these, what Disney calls their little neighborhoods, sort of like how they did with DCA with Pixar Pier. You have Pixar Pier as the land itself, but then you would have a neighborhood of Toy Story, you would have a neighborhood of Inside Out, and this is where it kind of gives that feel, in a sense, because you would have this big structure of land, but then you would have World Nature, World Celebration, World Space, or whatever the other names were called. I don't know. For me, it's always going to be Future World. I don't know if I can necessarily walk into Epcot and say, okay, I'm going into World Nature. Okay, now I'm going to walk into World Celebration. I don't know. I think it's just too much.
It's they're really kind of laying on this what is it, this kind of like this forced terminology, and they're pretty thick, and I just don't think it's going to necessarily work out in the long haul. I do agree with you, George. I honestly, I cannot remember those names for the life of me. World Nature,
It's World Nature, World Celebration,
Discovery.
That was it, not Space. It was World Discovery.
Okay, World Nature, World Discovery, and what was the other one?
It was World Celebration, and then it was going to be World Showcase.
I'm never. No. Okay. All right. Well, we'll just have Future World East, Future World Center, and Future World West. That's kind of what I'll refer to it as. Sorry, guys. I mean, I try. I really do. I really do try and what is it? Get these names right for you folks at home, because obviously there's internal naming schemes and so forth, and it's like it's appropriate to use those, but I can't remember, and that kind of tells you, I don't know, I guess how memorable these things are, and maybe how forced these things are, and maybe the quality of what we're getting, not just in terms of naming schemes, but for other things as well.
Well, exactly. And I was just going to bring that up. It's even just like with the annual passes, Incredipass, Pirate Pass, Pixie Pass. It's it's like, I don't care.
Well, we're leveraging our synergistic output. Yes, we're leveraging our synergistic output across all verticals. Don't you just love it, George? This is awesome. This is amazing.
I mean, I was fine with just
magical.
Like with Premier Passport, Premium Plus or Platinum Pass, or it's like, I'm fine with that. It's basic, it's simple, it gets to the point, but it's like, oh, I want to go and buy an Incredipass, or I want a Pirate Pass. It's like,
it doesn't quite work. That's one thing I'll say about the Magic Key program that I think they got right out of the box. And our dear friend OG, our dear brother OG, has said this before, right? He's including in the private chat here, no Beaver Pass. Yeah, no Beaver Pass.
Beaver.
No murder Beaver Pass, as we illustrated before. But that's one thing that OG has said and long held to, and I do agree with him completely. The branding on the Magic Key program is phenomenal. Like, it's really, really good. Again, generic titles, Dream, Inspire, but they're a little bit more. They're a little bit more memorable. They're a little bit more, I don't know, special. Even though they are generic, they're a little bit. They just kind of work on.
It rolls. It has like that connection of what like Disneyland represents. Yes. Where with Walt Disney World, it's like a Pirate Pass, Pixie Pass. It's like
Incredipass, Sorcerer Pass. It's like, what?
Yeah,
Like,
it's a bit, and I know this sounds weird coming from Disney because it's about kids, it's about family oriented, but just the name of that, it seems very diluted in a juvenile way. Like I don't know, it's something that I would expect to hear like from like Chuck E. Cheese or something. It's like, come in and get your Incredipass and you could play games all day and get a free pepperoni pizza. It's like,
oh man, yeah. I mean, that's kind of what it is. It's a little, I don't know. It feels a little cheap. It doesn't really feel like a premium quality product. That's just to me. But c'est la vie. I mean, I'll say this about the Moana Journey of Water, and I believe I will echo OG's sentiments here. It's being done with more quality than I originally envisioned. To have this kind of canopy like this and everything, I think it's really cool. And you could just imagine walking out of there and just seeing Spaceship Earth back there. I mean, it is going to be quite phenomenal to see the juxtaposition of these kind of smaller, intimate kind of organic spaces next to these very kind of very hyper futuristic almost aesthetics that you see traditional Epcot and new Epcot with the Innovations East 2.0 building or whatever. I think it's going to be I think it could work. I will say I wish we got a fountain in the center of Epcot. I think it's the last thing that this kind of real thing really needed. Obviously, they got rid of the Flattened Nations, which a lot of people were kind of upset about.
Oh no, I'm sorry. Go ahead, finish.
Oh no, I was just saying. I do think in order to make up for a little bit of that, they could have used one more fountain just right there. But that's just me.
Now I could be wrong, and I hope I'm wrong, but my concern of the route that they're going with the overhaul is when you walk into Epcot, your perception of everything is not like the Magic Kingdom or even to Disneyland, where when you walk into Frontierland, you're focused within Frontierland. When you walk into Critter Country, you're in Critter Country. Yeah. When you walk into the Future World side of, I'm sorry, folks, there I go again, Future World. It is
what it's going to be. Yep. Look, if we can't remember, we had to describe these things somehow. I don't want to impugn our viewers at all because, like I said, anybody who watches OG55 or our affiliate channels, they're a cut above, right? But I look, if I can't remember, I don't know how many other people can remember either. So it's okay.
So I think the way it's going to go is when you enter into World Celebration, that it doesn't even sound right. I'm sorry. It doesn't even let you go. You either go in through the World Showcase side at International Drive or you can enter through World Celebration. It's like, I'm sorry. But the perception of everything, it's all right there. So if you're over by the Imagination Pavilion or you're over by the Living Seas, you can turn and see Test Track. You can turn and see Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind. Yes. My concern is when you have these different IPs that are so compact within one area. So does that mean when you go into Moana, is the perception because it's so small that if you turn while you're in Moana and you turn and you say, oh, there's Guardians of the Galaxy, it throws that whole perception out because wherever you're supposed to be, that's supposed to be the main focus.
So I guess, I get what you're saying. And this is, I think, a new iteration of the Imagineering neighborhood concept. Do you remember this where Pixar Pier was the first time we saw this, right? Where we have distinct neighborhoods. It didn't quite work because everybody kind of understood that as just the pier, right? So attempting to segment it out between three different distinct styles, I don't know if it quite works in the way they wanted. I believe they're going with that concept again, but now it's going to be like all of Future World. So they have a lot more space in order to provide for transitions, in order to, maybe cut off sight lines with more trees in various areas, or they can be much more strategic about it than just trying to compact this within the pier. What is it? Length of the pier in California Adventure. So I think this is where they're going with it. I guess they view distinct lands as kind of like, oh, it has to be hyper immersive now going forward. So in lieu of hyper immersion, we're just going to have distinct neighborhoods where the design aesthetic won't change too much between any one of them, and there might be some overlap in terms of sightlines and so forth, and you can kind of see things from these neighborhoods. But they'll still be distinct in their own way.
Right. Let me rephrase that. I'm sorry, folks. In Disneyland Park, if you're in New Orleans Square, that you can still get the look of Frontierland. You could still get the look of Critter Country and what have you. But it's done with charm.
Yes.
It's done where it's cohesive. Where when you just kind of throw stuff together, is it going to look cheaply done?
That's the kind of the worry, right? Because I don't like New Orleans Square and that whole area. Like, it just works. It absolutely works from stem to stern. And even though you get some very big changes in aesthetic from Adventureland or even Frontierland over New Orleans Square, Critter Country, like, it still works. And I think they want to maybe replicate that for Future World. Now, they're calling it neighborhoods, they're using different terminology, but I think the philosophy of what they're doing is the same.
Yeah.
So you'll still have distinct sections, but it'll all work together more cohesively than Pixar Pier's implementation of it, and more on the kind of West End of Disneyland kind of design conceit. We'll see. I really don't know what to tell you. It's kind of funny because I can't even find the new concept art. That's how much concept art that we've had for Epcot over the years. I can't even find the new version of it just on the spot right here. Yeah. So we'll see if Epcot, what is it? Would it be Future World 2.1, 2.2 alpha beta? We'll see if it works, guys. Yeah. I'm hoping so. I'm hoping that whatever was cut doesn't impact the aesthetic or the feel of what they intend too much. Again, we'll see. I'm sure Zach Ridley will have a new post going over the new flooring, and it'll all flow together, and we'll all just have a magical time about it. I don't know. We'll see. Yeah. Yep. I have doubts about his abilities, but But I am curious to see what the future holds for Epcot to the fifth power. We'll see how it turns out. So got to the fifth power. Exactly right. Yeah. So moving on to our last topic, and I saved this one for last because I think this one is where all the anticipation is coming from, with Disney fans just waiting, to kick off the 100th anniversary and moving forward to the next 100 years of the company. And it would be ready for Walt Disney World's 75th anniversary. It's going to be Tron. Definitely it'll be ready for the 75th anniversary, folks. I guarantee you that. So, yeah, exactly. Oh, thank you. I do appreciate that, OG. Yes. And so we're actually seeing some light into this because we're seeing not just a test run, but a test run with actual physical human beings inside of the light cycles. That's a huge step. If you look very closely, there are, maybe not in this shot, but in prior shots, I'm sure I think that Walt Disney World News Today had a blog post about it, actually. Now, can you correct me? Is that the last step as far as for the ride goes itself? Like it's the pull and push, and then is that the last part where they actually test it with people on it? I mean, I know they still have to do more with the groundwork and the foundation, but is the ride itself ready to go? Tough to say, because the ride, look, if you have humans on it, it is now safe enough to actually ride it, right? But that doesn't necessarily mean all of the interior show elements are ready. It's kind of two different things there. So it's a huge step in the process, but are we there yet? I'm going to say no. I from what I've heard, the show elements are not quite done. That there's still a lot to work on that end. And let me see if I can get the human testing. Let me see if I can get the. I believe Inside the Magic had the best photos of this, if I'm not mistaken. Or no, not Inside the Magic. Walt Disney World News Today, I think it was.
Yeah.
But let me see. I'm trying. I'm trying. Okay, here we go. Yes, there we go. That's it. There we go. And let's go here. Go here. And there it is.
All right. Okay.
Human beings, folks.
Now I have to ask on the one picture, yeah, right there.
Yeah, it's the guy.
Yeah.
It's the guy leaning over. Right?
I mean, I could be wrong. He may just be, but I'm sorry if I was having the opportunity to test out Tron for how long this thing has been taken to get up operational, I'd be like, if someone were to snapshot a picture of me, like I'd look like a kid in a candy store.
Yeah. It's kind of unfortunate that, and we've seen this before, I guess. I remember a very kind of meme-worthy photo of a rider on, I believe it was Velocicoaster at Islands of Adventure, right? And there was this one guy when they were cresting over the lift hill, and he didn't look all that enthused to be there.
Yes.
That you would kind of expect. And everybody's like, oh no, does this mean the ride sucks? And obviously, now that the ride's open, that's very far from the case. It might not be testing at speed either, because if I'm not mistaken, this is the fastest roller coaster that Walt Disney, as built by Vekoma, have ever produced. I believe this is the fastest one at any of their parks. So it's kind of weird how he'd just be kind of leaning over. I think.
And then for how many times that he actually might have had to test it, based on how the time that picture was taken, he's be like, this could have been his 12th time doing this. So
he might have been up since like 3 a.m, and it's like you get to 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and this thing goes through, and he's a little bit worn out. Hey, it could happen, right? I think Jim Scholl, what is it? Imagineer, and also what is it? Consultant, black shirt, sitting tall, looks like Jesse. That's interesting. Yeah, it does look. What is it? Jesse Pinkman, I think. It does kind of look like him a little bit. That's very interesting. It's good observation there, OG. I do appreciate that. Appreciate that. See, this is where you come here to get the hard hitting coverage. You see,
absolutely.
Yes, folks, we only have high-class stuff on this show.
That's right. But it's kind of interesting. I think Jim Scholl, prior Imagineer and was a consultant and so forth. I think he was saying that like this kind of phenomenon of people like kind of laying down there over the various cycles themselves is not unique to what we're seeing in this picture. I guess it has happened before in Shanghai Disneyland. So I'll take that for what it's worth. I'm not sure. Look, I have heard it's a fun time. It's a fun ride. So I'm not necessarily concerned about one gentleman kind of leaning over there. Again, absolutely. As we heard in the Velocicoaster instance, it doesn't necessarily mean anything. But I'll share this with you as well, because I thought this was really, really cool.
This is where this attraction is going to be a beast, is at night. I cannot wait to see it illuminated when the sun goes down.
It looks phenomenal. Even in this testing right here, it just looks so cool. It really will give the entire area like a pulse, right? And I think we saw recently. I just thought of this because this is going to buttress up right next to Space Mountain, right?
Right.
Which is, as we know, has been there since 1975 in Magic Kingdom. So. It's a little bit older of an attraction, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it can't hang with the big boys. Still, that being said, though, we just saw during their Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween parties in Magic Kingdom that they were lighting up the exterior of Space Mountain in a way they hadn't before in any prior event or any prior iteration of that attraction. What are you thinking? Are you thinking maybe that they're going with distinct lighting packages for Space Mountain in order to harmonize with it, maybe a little bit closer to Tron? Just right next door.
Yeah, I think it's definitely to harmonize between Tron and Space Mountain and maybe even possibly the whole entire Tomorrowland as a whole, because it would probably, because based off of this type of lighting, it would be as if you were to have a chandelier and only have one light bulb lit in the whole entire thing. So you want to have each section of the chandelier lit to accommodate the whole entire impact of what it's supposed to do. So if you were to just have Tron lit and everything else has that kind of dim lit type of feel, it's going to seem out of place. And as you had mentioned, because Tron is so close to Space Mountain, I think that would probably be their long-term goal, so it can harmonize within the land.
Yeah, I do. I'll very much agree with that. I just thought of it, and I never really, because I was actually stunned on how beautiful some of this lighting package was for Space Mountain. I wish I had a video of it right now, but I can tell you, folks, it looked good. But I was taken up. I mean, seeing Tron. I mean, we've seen it before at Shanghai, but seeing it actually in the Magic Kingdom, it just looks just that much more special. You know what I'm saying? And it just looks dazzling. Yeah. But I hadn't made that connection until just now, literally on the show here, that the aesthetic choices in Space Mountain recently might have been impacted very much by Tron, and that they're just debuting it during these kind of after-hour events. But that might be the norm going forward with a distinct lighting package that synergizes, let's say, more with Tron next door. It's quite interesting. Walt Disney World News Today is reporting that these dispatches that you're seeing right now were about once every minute, which hopefully is not the actual case. Hopefully hopefully it's double that. They should have launches every 30 seconds, because at a minute, there are 7 rows of these light cycles here. Obviously 2 per side, so 7 times 2, 14 times 60, because you're having 60 dispatches for every hour, is 840 riders per hour, which is not good at all. Hopefully they can
and
get
especially
these dispatches
not for a ride at this caliber, and especially with the anticipation that everybody is going to go there.
Right, 840 riders per hour. I mean, that's
but I think it's safe to say,
I think Peter Pan gets more.
Yeah, but I think it's safe to say that they're probably going to start this off with the virtual queue.
Yeah. We had been talking privately amongst us, George, for a while now, that we've been speculating that the boarding pass system that they've implemented at various attractions as they opened, most recently at Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout. I'm sorry, Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind over there at Epcot. I would imagine a similar system implemented here, where you might have 2. Boarding group releases,
time frames.
Yeah, time frames. So one in the morning, one in the afternoon, and then maybe for hotel guests who have a reservation at Magic Kingdom for the day, one possibly for them later on in the evening. Total of 2 plus 1, right? And then having the option to buy a virtual purchase into a virtual queue or boarding pass system, if you want to do that as well. So I believe they're going to go with a similar system. I think that was particularly successful at Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind. But the capacity difference is very interesting. From what I understand, capacity at Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind is higher than the theoretical capacity here. I do believe it is. Let's see here. I do believe it's every 30 seconds And so that would be double. So it's 840 times 2. That's 1,680. I thought Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind was well over 2,000. So we'll see how the distribution of these boarding passes actually works with maybe a lower capacity figure attached to this attraction, especially in a... Well, that's interesting. Magic Kingdom has more attractions, right? That kind of saturate those guests, maybe to a greater extent than Epcot does.
Correct.
So maybe that balance is out there, but this one's definitely going to be interesting to watch from a capacity perspective. But now we have human riders. Now we have the lighting package actually working. We have the netting up. A little bit unfortunate. Shanghai doesn't have netting. Magic Kingdom does. Orlando. It's a different thing, right?
And I have to say though, by experiencing Cosmic Rewind, I have to say it moves much smoother with the boarding group process than Rise has ever done.
Yes, yeah, and that's literally just from capacity. Rise just is not as amazing as that attraction is, as just leaps and bounds that kind of a next-gen experience that Rise has come to be known for. Capacity is still the issue there. And because of this extended downtime that can happen, I believe OG recently relayed a story to me where a cast member told him that the main reason for Rise's downtimes now is from lost items, is from like a hat actually falling off. It falls on the ride track, and then a ride vehicle actually goes over it. And, as we've seen with other Disney attractions, most notably like at, Tower of Terror over there at Disney's Hollywood Studios as well, if that ride vehicle even goes off just by a millimeter, it's an automatic e-stop, because now you have a vehicle going off course. And especially with a free roaming one, you want to keep those things in check. So it's really it really is unfortunate that they can't overcome those issues. And from what I understand, Walt Disney World suffers from it more than Disneyland. Walt Disney World's versions of Rise is down for I think over 2 hours on average per day, whereas Disneyland's doesn't necessarily hit that. I think it's like 90 minutes or even less than that per day. So it's one of those things. But thankfully, each park will have a big heavy hitter that has been built within the last 10 years or whatever. And that will kind of, I think, balance crowds out even further. So, no matter what park you go to, there will be a big, exciting new attraction in which to see. So that's good. Absolutely.
Now, I have to ask you this too, because Disney confirmed that the very last day of the 50th anniversary celebration at Walt Disney World, or lack thereof, the last day is going to be 31st.
March 31st, yeah.
March 31st of 2023.
Which is about the 18-month schedule that we kind of expected.
Right. Do you still feel that Tron is going to be the last leg of the 50th celebration, or do you feel that it will come operational after the celebration is over?
No. From what I've heard...
Because I've had that same intel, because it's set up around the holidays.
There have been others that are much more informed, in tune, and smarter than me, who have heard from various sources greater than mine that there's kind of a handoff to ops that occurs before an attraction opens, and based on that timeline, if that handoff were to occur right now, we could see Tron opening in November. That handoff hasn't occurred, however. A lot of people are still kind of bullish, even the company itself, in having Tron open before the end of the year. I'm hearing maybe AP previews late November, early December, and then for late December an opening for Tron. So that's kind of what I'm hearing. I think it will be the last leg, like you said, of the 50th anniversary, just to kind of get just a little bit more out of that.
Basically end it with a bang, because everything else from beginning, middle, it was very stagnant.
Very stagnant, not good. these attractions really needed to be part of the 50th anniversary celebration if they weren't going to go with anything else. From what I had heard, they were going to go with a extensive package for various attractions at Walt Disney World. They might have really played into the nostalgia, maybe even more. And with these attractions coming online, the 50th anniversary celebration would have been, really, let's say, as Christine Wastelands McCarthy would say, robust, right? It would be really quite impactful. But unfortunately, slow rolling these things out and not having a big nostalgia play, and just there's some other stuff not going over the attractions like they were supposed to, right? Not getting, let's say, the Hatbox Ghost into Haunted Mansion. That's something that I had heard for a little while.
See, I still
redoing
feel
scenes
like,
in Carousel of Progress.
Right.
Slow rolling these things out didn't work.
I still think that they may consider those, but I think they may not attach them to the 50th anniversary necessarily. I think it's going to be for the 100th anniversary of the company that's integrated within the parks. Because that way, when you have something that you're celebrating the 100th anniversary of the company per se, you don't necessarily have to say it has to be within that year. It could be part of, okay, what are we going to work on for the next 100 years?
Yeah, exactly. That's what we're hoping for. We're hoping for the 100th anniversary for the company to be the make good that Walt Disney World guests honestly, frankly, deserve and want, right? I think they wanted a nostalgia-filled celebration. I think they wanted to kind of celebrate the resort in a way that necessarily wasn't done or capitalized on by the company itself. So we're hoping that this 100th anniversary actually, makes up for that, right? But from what I'm hearing, I've not heard anything in that direction. Now, hey, they could surprise us at an announcement at let's say D23 Expo, right? They could surprise us with something there, but I haven't necessarily heard anything in terms of any of my sources, any of the other people's sources, any people divulging what they have. I've just not heard anything on the waiver wire regards to that. Now they could still be focusing on the 50th, right? They still could be focused on getting Tron up and kind of other priorities in place, right? And maybe saving some announcements. I mean, apparently they are going to talk about maybe the 100th anniversary at this next D23 Expo, so maybe they're saving stuff for that. So we'll see.
Well, that's what I'm thinking, because they said the expo is heavily going to be about the 100th.
Yes. Yeah. And maybe as part of those announcements, they go forward with some of the stuff that we heard for the 50th. I hope they do. Yeah. We're already hearing talk of a 100th anniversary celebration fireworks spectacular at Disneyland, right? What is it? It's like Wondrous?
Wondrous.
Yeah, Wondrous. I was going to say momentous, but it's like, no, that's Hong Kong. Okay. See, folks, I mean, you got a lot of names here, guys. Come on. Can we get a like? Can we get a like for the names? I think we can get a like for the names. But yeah, no, I mean, we're hoping. We'll see. I mean, haven't heard anything. I really do hope they do something for the 100th anniversary, because fans are just they're such in a rut right now. A lot of people are disgruntled. They're upset with some of the changes to, annual pass systems, reservation systems, this kind of premiumization, as Salim Basul from Six Flags CEO would call it, right? This Wall Street Journal article, a lot of people are kind of upset. A lot of people are kind of like, we haven't really been seeing the fruits of the quality guest experience that Disney touts all the time, right? We really want something at D23 Expo. We'll see if we can get it.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate you joining me today, Mr. VashSky, and of course, OG55, who's behind the screen right now. He's not up front, but he's in the back, handling all the controls there. I want to thank you both for joining me with this robust discussion of Citrus Corner, if you will. We talked about a lot, and definitely comment down below anything that we've talked about, any opinions you may have. Do you agree with us? Do you disagree with us? What do you feel like that's going to come of the 100th anniversary of the company and moving forward? Are they going to add in the Hatbox Ghost? Are they going to add extra technological enhancements to maybe some of the fantasy land rides that they did as with like Snow White and Peter Pan? Are they going to eventually have a permanent home for all the beavers? You never know. They could always come up with something. So definitely comment down below, enhancements, fireworks, shows, beavers, whatever. We want to hear from you.
It's gonna be a thing now.
It's gonna be a thing. That's for you. That's for you, Showcase. I had to do it for you.
Had to do it.
But Mr. VashSky, thank you for joining me. And you want to let everyone know where they can find you on social media, sir?
Yes. Okay. So if you want to go ahead and follow me, you can go ahead and do so right down there at VashSky for, as Christine Waysons McCarthy would say,
For all the robust
discussion. You can go ahead and do that right down there. And if you want to see me, well, it's going to be on the channel you're watching right now at Orange Grove 55 at Freshly Squeezed, your source for juicy news and info squeezed fresh right from the Grove. Now, I just did want to say one programming note here. I remember, coming off of our last live show, this was recorded on Tuesday, so yesterday, we saw a super chat come in from Captain John D. And I didn't acknowledge this at the time. I wish I had. I do very much apologize, sir. I just wanted to say that I'm his videos are extremely funny. I know my family is a big fan of his videos for sure. I think they're extremely hilarious. I wanted to go ahead and just give that shout out right now because I failed to do so on last show. I felt really bad, especially because he had donated $10. He had said some very, very nice things about the channel, about us. So I just wanted to go ahead and acknowledge that. Very funny, dude. His content is something, folks, for sure. Definitely check him out. Really phenomenal stuff. So I just wanted to go ahead and put that out there. I should have done it at the time. I didn't. I'll be clipping this out and sending it to him though to ensure that us at OG55, very, very funny for sure.
Absolutely.
George, go ahead.
Absolutely. And of course, you can find me on my YouTube channel, Disney Family Man 23. You can interact with me on Twitter at Disney George. And of course, you'll find me here on Orange Grove 55 with Citrus Corner, like this episode you're watching today, with all that sweet, juicy, but sometimes sticky Disney news and info. Thanks everyone for watching and have a magical day.